Hello there. It looks like the trade talks cards are falling in favour of the UK government. Firstly, please give this video a like to give my channel a boost, and I'm always uploading new videos, so please do check back daily. The UK Prime Minister has given the green light for the UK to start formal trade negotiations with the US. And the talks could start as early as this coming Wednesday, with reports coming in that the US President is gagging to get a deal done before the presidential elections in November. But not only that, we now have the EU negotiators coming to the realisation that there will be no Brexit implementation period extension, and that if they want to keep selling into the UK, they need to do a proper deal, not try and foist EU membership on us via a backdoor level playing field. On the UK-US trade deal, The Sun reports that the first round of talks will be between our International Trade Secretary Liz Truss and her US counterpart Robert Lighthizer. Talks will start using teleconferencing on Wednesday and last for 2 weeks. Now, according to The Sun report, the two main obstacles to the deal will be agriculture and food standards and the UK proposal to impose a tax on US social media giants that operate very widely in the UK but pay virtually no tax here. Now, the agriculture food standards will likely have hotspots regarding the US use of certain chemicals in meat production and the use of chlorine to wash chicken, practices that the UK does not allow. And any movement on the UK regulations to allow such US produce into our food chain would be met by a deafening wall of wailing and gnashing of teeth. Despite the fact that many Brits have toddled off to the good old US of A over the years and thoroughly enjoyed a steak or chicken dinner. I know I have. And although I'm not an expert, as far as I can see, the main criticism of the chlorine washing of chickens is not the chlorine itself, but rather that EU rules-based UK system of rearing chickens is claimed to be much healthier for the birds, so their meat must be better and safer to eat. And the claim continues by saying that the only reason the US has to chlorine wash its chickens is because the birds must have been raised cruelly and with less care, and therefore be less healthy, so not as safe to eat unless it's scourged with chemicals. Not sure about that one myself. Maybe the Americans are just taking an extra health step. Now, the other point mentioned was the taxing of the likes of Google, Facebook and Twitter. The so-called Google tax. This is where huge tech corporations based for tax purposes outside the UK can profit here but pay little or no tax. Now, according to the Register, in the tax year to April 2019, Google paid £65.3 million tax on £246.3 million pre-tax profits. That's 27% or thereabouts. But Jeremy Corbyn claimed in 2016 that independent experts suggest that overall Google may be paying an effective tax rate as low as 3%. And Amazon paid £1.7 million tax on £72.4 million profit, or just 2.3%. Now, these sorts of figures do rankle with UK voters who think big US corporations are just fleecing them. So the idea of making them pay their fair share sounds very attractive. But it's not like the tax money is flowing out into the US Treasury systems either. CBS News reported that in the 2018 tax year, tech giants such as Amazon and Netflix should have paid a collective $16.4 billion in federal income taxes based on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act's 21% corporate tax rate. Instead, these corporations received a net tax rebate of $4.3 billion. But right at the moment, the White House might see these as the engines of US recovery, so might not want to see their wings clipped in any way at all. And that might go equally for the thinking on this side of the Atlantic too. For now, anyway. But with only 6 months to the US presidential elections and an incumbent resident of the White House in a hurry, then time is on the side of the UK. And when you switch the attention to the east over the channel to the European Union, the same situation seems to be unfolding there too. We have a struggling European Union barely holding itself together, let alone its single currency zone, and a budget decision in the offing by the end of the year. And it will be desperate, especially in the current economic climate, for its industries to maintain their seamless trade surplus with the UK, the place they call their Treasure Island. And to do that, the Eurocrats see no other alternative than to try and trap the UK inside a de facto one-way membership deal with Brussels. I.e., we take all the rules and hassle while paying all the money to them, and they get the benefit, just as always. And they want our fishing waters into the bargain. And on top of that, they also started with plans to build an embassy in Northern Ireland, obviously with the intent of gradually hiving it away from the UK, but we soon put a stop to that one. That, however, does not stop Brussels. With Politics Home reporting, a fresh row has broken out between the UK and EU after Number 10 accused Brussels of publishing demands for detailed plans on Northern Ireland customs checks before sharing them with London. The EU wants a hard border between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, with an EU embassy in Northern Ireland to turn it into Brussels property. And this stems from our government, for some unknown reason, signing up to checks on goods going across the Irish Sea into Northern Ireland in the Irish Border Protocol section of the Withdrawal Agreement Treaty, just so as to protect the EU single market. Why didn't we just leave with no Withdrawal Agreement Treaty when we had the chance? The EU is insisting that the key preparations for this are put in place by July the 1st, so that we can be assured it is up and running by the end of the year. But of course, if we do, then Brussels will just sit back and effectively take control of Northern Ireland. They may also be pushing for this to put pressure on us to extend the talks by 1 or 2 years to put a deal in place that's good enough for the EU that we don't need this protocol in place. As far as I'm concerned, no checks internal to our UK borders, stop buying EU goods, and don't hand over any part of this supposed £39 billion Brexit leaving bill. Further, if the EU wants a border to protect its single market, then it can put one up on its side of the border. Then watch it lose all support in the Republic of Ireland. And on this, a Downing Street spokesperson said, "The EU Commission has chosen this technical note to set out its own views of the implementation of the Northern Ireland Protocol. It was not shared at recent meetings with the UK, nor has it been agreed by the UK government." And adding that, most strikingly, the note appears to miss out the fundamental objective of the Northern Ireland Protocol. There is no mention of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement or the peace process anywhere in this 7-page document. But according to the Telegraph, the Brexit talks could well collapse if the EU keeps harping on about grabbing our fish. And it reports that one UK source close to the talks said that the EU must understand that an independent state has independent control over coastal waters, and that what we are wanting now is an EU understanding that we are not going to subordinate our laws to them in any areas. Bravo to that, and encore! Moving on. And a piece of news that you might have missed is that Germany takes over the 6-month rolling presidency of the EU Council from Croatia on the 1st of July. And already the German Chancellor Angela Merkel has signalled that she wants a financial transaction tax, otherwise known as a Tobin tax, minimum tax rates for all, and an EU-wide healthcare system. And City AM reported a few days ago that she said this would include promoting a European healthcare system for all member states, a financial transaction tax, minimum tax rates, and a joint carbon emissions trading scheme for planes and ships. Several think tanks told City AM that the UK was fortunate to have avoided Germany's policy agenda by leaving the EU in January. And the one that stands out here for me is this talk of an EU-wide healthcare system. I remember debating with people during the 2016 In-Out campaign and saying that the EU will, in the end, be coming after the NHS. But the Remainers said it would never happen. But were we still inside the EU right now, it would be starting in July. And you have to wonder if, in the end, it turns out to be modelled on the rather complex, well to me anyway, German system of compulsory insurances or nearer the UK tax-based system. I think I know which way that would have likely headed, don't you? At the moment you can travel from member state to member state and get healthcare, but each country controls how they deliver it. But once the EU gets its claws into it, well, it would have to be centralised everything, wouldn't it? Training of doctors and nurses, procurement, management practices, and all the record and data systems would have to be fully aligned. And the net contributing countries will be paying for it all, of course. But whatever happens with it, would you have liked the EU starting the process of dismantling the NHS? Because that would have had to have come. And if we extend the Brexit talks, will that mean we end up being forced to negotiate our way into reforming our own NHS to fit the new EU health system? Do we really want to take that risk? And on financial transaction taxes, it sounds good to stick it to bankers and speculators, but it's that sort of thing that acts as a drag on building up pension fund pots and pushes up things like insurance costs. And minimum tax rates? Well, if the money-hungry EU ever gets its finger in that pie, there's only one way that taxes will go. I'm so glad that we're now outside of that organisation. And to make sure we are kept at full distance from this, we must not extend the implementation period. We must end it, deal or no deal, on the 31st of December as planned. And this healthcare angle should be used by Brexiteers to push back hard against the rejoiners and those wishing to extend our time under the control of Brussels. Also, here was me thinking that Merkel was taking a back seat to retirement right now. Well, no sign of that if this is her agenda. But surely she should be totally focused on cutting EU costs and doing her level best to keep the whole thing together. But what she's suggesting here could well just cause more division. She may want to make a bit of an outgoing splash, but surely a better idea would have been to play caretaker. Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it. So what do you think about all of this? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.